All praise is due to Allah. As is customary in the Nation of Islam, we begin every meeting with our opening prayer. So I'm going to pass it to Brother Javon to open us up in prayer.
Yes, ma'am. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Attention, prayer family. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Surely I have turned myself to thee, O Allah, striving to be upright to him who originated the heavens and the earth, and I am not of the polytheists. Surely my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, and my death are all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. No associate has he, and of this I am commanded, and I am of those who submit. O Allah, thou art the King. There is no God but thee. Thou art my Lord, and I am thy servant, and I have been greatly unjust to myself, and I confess of my faults. So please grant me protection against all of my faults, for none grants protection against faults but thee. And guide me unto the best of morals, for none guides unto the best of morals but thee. And turn away from me the evil and the indecent morals, for none can turn away from me the evil and the indecent morals but thee. O Allah, bless Muhammad and the true followers of Muhammad, as thou did bless Abraham and the true followers of Abraham, for surely thou art praised and magnified. And O Allah, make Muhammad successful, and make the true followers of Muhammad successful, as thou did make Abraham and the true followers of Abraham successful, for surely thou art praised and magnified in our midst forever. Ameen. Ameen.
Ameen. All praises are due to Allah. First of all, I'd like to just introduce myself. Peace, everybody. Welcome to your master Zoom call. Sister Jade Muhammad, I'm one of our staff members, and we today have a very special edition of the master call. First of all, in case this is your first time tuning into the master call, or in case this is your first time viewing, if you're viewing via YouTube, we have to say, one, welcome. And just to introduce the master call, we've been around since June 4th, 2020, and we are a book club dedicated to the studying of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, through the readings and writings of these great men, and in studying our teachings, striving to improve ourselves, which brings us to our topic of discussion today. The way this works, one, this is our You Are Being Called special series, where we as a team of the Master Zoom call, after having gotten to hear from such amazing people and great students of Islam and students of life over the 2 years or 3 years now that we've been doing this consistently 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, that we now get to at least share with our community as well what we as a team have gotten in what we come to understand in terms of the truth of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and of the Nation of Islam. So with that being said, You Are Being Called special guest for today, pardon me, my manners. I like to just say, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. I like to greet y'all with the greeting words of peace and paradise. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Alaikum salam, ma'am.
I did already mention that I'm from Brooklyn, and I felt like that was a salam, but we do have to do things properly and right and exact. So, but yes, with those salams as well, our guest for today is Brother Demetrius. So he's a master call OG, from the very beginning, and then joining the staff. Like, he's had a whole transformation, visual and physical and spiritual, leading up to this point. And so we'll get to hear from him on the topic of self-improvement being the basis for community development. So if this is your first time on the call, or just as a reminder for how this will go, one, you're super excited for this. One, you're encouraged to turn on your cameras. Definitely chime in the chat if you hear something that resonates with you. But in addition to that, we have questions that we've received. And if you have a question that comes up for you in the chat, well, you just put it in the chat, and then Brother Javon will keep track of it, and Brother Jeremy as well. You can DM Brother Javon or Brother Jeremy, and we will get to as many questions as we can in the allotted time. So with that being said, to the team, is there anything else before we pass it to our dear brother?
No, ma'am.
Right, plot twist, Brother Demetrius. It's me. So, okay, with that being said, Brother Demetrius, we're going to pass it straight to you to get us started.
Praise be to Allah. Also beginning in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. I greet my beloved Master Call family with the greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum. And praise be to Allah. Just to open up, I just wanted to say this, as sister explained, it is about us, the You Are Being Called series. So I just wanted to remind the family that I'm not necessarily here to teach on self-improvement, the basis for community development. These study guides that we in the nation are familiar with because we go over them every Friday. And I had to remind myself of that because I started to think I was preparing for a lecture. That's a habit. I'm in the student ministry. But the lecture that the minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, gave with that title, Self-Improvement, the Basis for Community Development, in 1986. In the beginning of that lecture that the study guides that we have stem from, he kind of set the tone with struggle and hardship, as far as our development, and that being necessary and ordained by Allah. And I just wanted to bring that up because the way that this played out, this interview, I just thought it was interesting and necessary to mention. Of course, it was postponed and it was supposed to be last week. And our dear brother Jibril Muhammad, our dear brother minister Jibril Muhammad, transitioned. I'm not gonna take up too much time giving a deep bio on brother Jibril Muhammad, but suffice it to say that he's just as important to our nation as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because he played a very critical role in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's life for him to do this work and resurrecting our people and resurrecting our nation. But we postponed it and we listened to brother Jibril last Tuesday, and I just felt like it was necessary to say that for this on record, because it's important that we honor and, you know, show that type of appreciation for brothers and sisters who have strived and have set such a big example for us and helped to lay out a path for us. So I just felt like it was necessary to say that, the same way that they quickly, surprisingly, made the final call cover for brother Jabril and put, you know, appreciation for him in the final call, which comes out in our cities on Tuesdays, and he just passed that Sunday. So just as quickly as they made that action, we felt it was necessary to quickly make that action as well on the master call. And the other thing I wanted to say was that today, and pardon me, Sister Anise, if I'm overstepping. I hope I'm not. But I just wanted to give love to my sister and condolences to her family. Because Sister Anissa had a death in the family recently, and to my knowledge, the staff told me that she was going to, you know, still help out with the meeting today, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad that my sister is here, and my condolences to your family. But I just also felt like there was something in that, being that you know, the minister starts off this subject talking about trials and struggle. You know what I mean? So already that's, you know, I think just something to speak about, to self-improvement, about us working through what Allah has promised that we will have to work through, which is trials of life, diminution of fruit, destruction of property. But yeah, everybody can loosen their collar a little bit. It's still, like I said, it's gonna be an interview with your brother. So you know, ask any questions that you want to regarding the subject as it pertains to the subject or as it pertains to me. And inshallah, with his help, I'm gonna tie it all together.
Wow, all praises are due to Allah. One, thank you for presenting us to the reality of the time that we're in the shoulders that we stand on. And
Mm,
definitely, of course, on behalf of, the whole Master Call staff, the team, the family, to Sister Anissa, and to your whole tribe, your family forest, let alone a family tree, but may Allah be pleased with Bobby for real. Um,
I mean,
and all the love to you and your family right now. And then, of course, to our whole, nation in light of the transition of our dear brother Jabril, being the great scholar that he was. And I think that that might be like a good segue into our first question for you, Brother Demetrius. So, the topic that you've given today that we're centering our discussion on is self-improvement being the basis for community development, or for the basis for community development. But
mm,
as part of that self-improvement, you've also touched a lot on just the element of faith, and how faith impacts our own journeys. So the first question that we have for you, like, how has your faith improved your self-development?
mm. That's a good first question because I was thinking about like just I was thinking about my whole life as best as I could today, kind of just putting my mind in that place for the interview. Because I picked self-improvement. I picked this title for my interview because each of the staff that has gone thus far for this series that we started has a title, that kind of fits them, or where they're at in life right now, and what they wanted to express. And that just kind of, for me personally, I just feel like that says a lot about my my journey in life, especially in this chapter of my life, but just as a whole. Because as far as faith, and I always thank my mother for instilling God in me, even regardless to the knowledge of God that I had when I was younger. um she always instilled that in me to trust God and to have faith in God, um and not to let life overcome me. You know what I'm saying? So uh I always had a yearning to be in God's favor, and evidently throughout my life is led me here and has done a lot for me. Um, that's a really deep question the more I'm thinking about it now. But can you repeat the question actually? 'Cause now-
I'm gonna repeat it and then I'm gonna build onto it based off of what I heard just now. So,
mm,
one, the question is, how has your faith improved your self-development?
mm.
And then, like, we can just build on top of that, add a little sauce. So, what do you wish that people understood about the process for self-improvement?
Well, my faith has helped my self development because if I if I was trying to lean on, you know, other people, or you know other things that people tend to focus on more, and not having God in the center, I can't really say what path I would be on right now, like where I would have strayed off, or what I would have allowed to take my attention um off of the focus. I wanted just to help with that question. I want to actually dive into the study guides real quick. Um the book, for those who haven't seen it. And the minister said in the lecture, just give me a sec while I turn to the page. Patience is part of self development too.
One thing we do love on the master call is the citations. So, take your time, sir.
All praise is due to Allah. Is this the actual lecture? It is. Okay, so I shouldn't have to go this deep. Here it is. He said, human life has a predetermined goal. And then he goes on to say, I'm skipping a little bit, but he said, before you came into existence, there was a goal set for your life. And that goal for your life is written in the Bible and the Quran. That goal is to make that life meet with its source, its creator. And then he goes on to say that, meeting with the source means to meet means to join the essence of your being to the essence of the originator of all this life. So not necessarily he was, dispelling the idea of us having to die and then, meeting with God after we die. He was, talking about becoming one with Allah. And because of that faith that I had instilled in me from the beginning, even though I didn't quite understand what that predetermined destination was, I still desired that. I still desired oneness with Allah. So that helped my development because I was allowing, whether I knew it or not, Allah to guide me and not money to guide me or women to guide me or, or having nothing to guide me and just living my life like many of us unfortunately do, just seeking whatever pleases us that day. You know what I mean? So um I had a sense of morality that led me to where I am now. And you said, what do I wish people understood more about the journey to self-improvement
Yes, sir.
or self-development? Uh
The
that
process.
Yeah, the process. I would double back to how the minister started the tone of the lecture, which is that we can't escape pain. We can't escape the struggle of it. We have to embrace that and we have to understand that it's ordained by God, not because, you know, God just wants us to suffer. The minister talked about how in the Holy Quran it says, in the second chapter, I think it was verse 185. I'm pretty certain it was because I was literally just looking at it. But that Allah desires ease for us and not hardship. And it's referring to the holy month of Ramadan when it's talking about that, about us, if we're sick or on a journey, making the days up later and not laying an extra burden on ourselves. But that's an extra burden that he's trying to have us avert. But regardless, there's still a level of difficulty that's necessary for us to go through. We're taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that in Allah's own process, in God's own process of development, it wasn't just poof and he was just making everything just happen seamlessly. He had to go through struggle and difficulty as well, and pain as well. You know what I mean? Which is why he's able to have the highest reverence of all these qualities. Patience. He's the patient, the all-knowing, the beneficent, because he put the time in to really be able to express all of these divine qualities to the fullest, because he went through it the most. So that's how we become one with him. That's part of the process. We can't run from difficulty. I'll leave it at that.
No, that's something that we don't necessarily talk about enough, that the process that we go through in life is, well, we speak about how the process we go through in life is a microcosm of what it took for us to get here in the first place. As the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said, there's 3 great trials that we have to go through, fighting against fierce competition, fighting against gravity itself, and then just the determination to push through. But that very process also a microcosm or a replication of what God himself had to go through in order to become who he is and in order to establish the universe as it is. So thank you for naming that, but that's kind of heavy, right?
Yes,
The process of
ma'am.
becoming ourselves is the same process of becoming God that he went through is the same. Yourself is God is what comes to mind.
Mm.
Oh, in the chat. Sorry, were you about to say something, sir?
No, go ahead.
That part, Sister Anissa, joining the Nation of Islam in this time is the faith-filled thing we can do whole time. Facts. So like actually on that note, another question that has come in, like what books and lectures aided you in your development when you first joined the nation? Actually, can we talk about like what brought you to join the Nation of Islam in the first place and your process with that? Like I remember way back when like another version of Brother Demetrius who used to join the mock calls, but for those who may not know, actually I don't even know if I know the story, but how did you get here? Word to Deborah Cox, how did you get here?
Um, in short, I would say through social media was definitely a big avenue. Um, which is why I'm still active the way I am on social media because I really it's annoying, but I know it can be necessary, and I know for a fact because people have told me that that I've helped them in a major way just through some of the stuff that I share online. So um, that's an amazing feeling. Pardon me. Uh, yeah, but through social media, like I started noticing my brother Riza Islam, brother Ben X, 19 Keys, sister Nisa, um, and like I was already on a journey of just wanting to get out of the lifestyle that I was in. Like I was already trying to eat better and rid myself of vices, but it was difficult because people around me wasn't really thinking the way I was thinking in some cases, but um I was just around who I was around, and it wasn't a lot of people that I knew who could show me what I was starting to see as an example, and the brothers and sisters that I was starting to come across from the Nation of Islam online. And I was just mesmerized because one, seeing the work that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was doing, and the main aspect of like doing for self and us building our own, whether we get help from white people or not. I was like, wow, are these people really like out here doing this stuff like that we go out and protest about all the time and whine and crying to our oppressors to with no avail? Like they're doing it. Like, why don't I hear anything about this? Why haven't I seen anything about this? And the love that I was seeing attracted me. Like you could tell it's even online, it's a lot of fake stuff on the internet, but you could tell there's genuine love amongst the brothers and sisters in the Nation of Islam. And I had never seen anything like it before. So I just wanted to go like to a mosque eventually after, kind of studying a little bit myself, reading Message to the Black Man, continuing to, just see what the brothers and sisters was talking about that I mentioned, who I had started following. Um, and I eventually went to DC. That was the first mosque I went to because I found the wrong address for my local one here in Norfolk. Shout out to Norfolk 757, Moss 57. My student minister is actually on the call right now. I see his face. That just made my day. Shout out to my brother, student minister Ernest Muhammad. Um, but yeah, that I mean, the rest is history, especially after I joined the master call, and just really getting to experience it for myself and study with other believers. And of course, there are milestones that really impacted me a lot. I'll say this without going into because you asked me, what brought me here. That's what brought me here. So I won't go into the journey after that. But I will say leading up to that, like for me actually getting registered, um, Allah really tailored my experience for me, I feel personally, to see that this is where he wanted me to be. Um, and like I said, that's why I feel like my faith definitely was what led me here, because had I not looked for God in things, um, I would have I may have missed some steps and not ended up here. Sister Anissa said expound.
Right. I was about to say, like, can you please give an example or two?
One
Of like
example
how
is
you made it?
definitely I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, sis. One example is definitely what was it, Savior's Day 20, yeah, it was 21, because 22 was the swan song. Um the virtual Savior's Day, which was the first ever virtual Savior's Day, and a lot of y'all probably remember because most of the Master Call staff was on the call with me when the minister was speaking to the youth in the youth summit virtual room, and he acknowledged me. I had a crown on, um, one of the Star and Crescent crowns from 19 Keys, and he said, "I see my brother has a fez on," because that's what the full thing is actually called, that him and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wear, which I would never wear that and put myself in that type of position. It's more like a headband. But anyway, he said, you have the universe on your head, and Allah wants to put it in your head so you will be a god. And I was just like, bruh, like in the moment, I don't even remember what I was thinking. Like as soon as he called my name, I was just like, just listening. And I wasn't even able to process all of that until afterwards. But that in particular for me was a moment, because Master Fard Muhammad in particular, who we in the Nation of Islam believe that um, Allah has come to us and is here with us presently in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. Savior's Day, that Savior's Day, the virtual Savior's Day, I'm just saying this for those who don't know, um, is a celebration that we have in the Nation of Islam on Master Fard Muhammad's birth anniversary. So that was my first Savior's Day. I'm still learning and I'm still growing a connection to Allah, Master Fard Muhammad. And I haven't had to say this in a while, so I'm just making sure I'm careful with my words to describe how I was feeling, because I just felt like the more I was hearing him talked about, the more I started to realize that I wasn't as studied in particular on the God as I was in other aspects of the teachings. And I was just like, man, I feel like I'm kind of disconnected right now. Like I could know more about the Savior because it's Savior's Day. And the last thing he said, the last thing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said before he said what he said to me personally, he was talking to the youth in general, and he said, keep a hold to Master Fard Muhammad. I didn't realize that until I played it back later, and it's still on YouTube. Anybody could pull it up. But um, the fact, even before that, the fact that he addressed me in a moment where I was feeling like that, I was feeling like that on that call, on that youth call. And the fact that he said that afterwards, when it was over, of course I cried. And I was like, yo, like God really just gave me comfort through him in that moment. Like he didn't have to speak to me. We don't have to kick Sister Anissa off the call. I cried with regular tears, Big Nisa. It wasn't an ugly cry. It wasn't a baby cry. But anyway, it was and since I'm bringing that up, I just want to say too, speaking on those words that he said to me, I also realized later that he was talking to all of us when he said that. Um, that Allah wants to put the universe in our head so that we, not just me, will become a god. And it was just beautiful that I just happened to be used for that in that moment because I needed it. Um, I can't really think of, well, yes, I can. It's just too many examples for me to try to call to mind right now because y'all asked for two major ones. Um, if it comes to me, maybe, but that's always the first one that comes to mind.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's beautiful. Those of us who were there for that moment, first of all, it is available on YouTube. But those of us who were there for that moment, oh my gosh, like it was just so beautiful because I think you were the first person that the minister had spoken to directly in the call. So it was like he had called out some specific names that he had saw on his Zoom. Like he just like kind of leaned in and he was like, he said, I see the brother with the
Hmm.
crown. It's Demetrius. And I remember
Yeah.
at that moment not knowing if not knowing how much the Honorable Minister Farrakhan could see, but then that was the moment that I knew, oh, he's literally looking at us on the Zoom. Like, you could go gallery view or view everybody. He was indeed looking at us. And I remember being like I sat up more straight. I wasn't even on camera. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the minister, oh, he really is seeing us. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful moment. Definitely had to add that to just like the list of Brother Demetrius's greatest hits. It's like that time when after like a Zoom crowd of thousands of people, like the minister like spoke to you. And yet he definitely has a habit of just speaking to whatever is on the minds and hearts of whoever is present in the moment. Like he could be speaking to thousands of people, but you know that there's like something there specifically for you and how beautiful that is. Like definitely.
Can I add to that as well? He
Please.
because I left another part out. Um, I don't know if I do that on purpose out of humility, but he said that before he mentioned the crown, or the stars on my head, because that was the first thing he said. My brother has a fez on. He said, "You're looking good, my brother." But not, I'm looking at that as not just a compliment, like, "Oh, you're handsome." Like, Islam looks good on you. That's how that sits with me personally. That suit and that bow tie, that star and that crescent, you look good. That's how you should look. You know what I'm saying? Sister Jade was talking about my appearance change before the master call. I had locks. I had locks that I thought I would never part with. I had some natural locks, not the spaghetti noodles. I had, mine was kind of fly. But yeah. Yo, man, y'all going. I'm
So
gonna ignore these comments. 'Cause y'all have to-
you can see you got the chat, going up. Like they said,
uh,
they're saying you had faux locks. They called you a
nah,
whole hooligan. Um,
man, it's a family
Definitely,
affair.
you absolutely had them on the first calls, but you also got the chat going, lots of claps, lots, the fire emojis. Our praises due to Allah. Like what you're saying is just resonating with a lot of people, and it's something to like just see someone's process. And that's the thing about the logs, like to have literally visually seeing your process in real time and seeing like the before and after. There's other brothers out here who had locks too. Not gonna call them out. All praise due to Allah for the growth process, right? So, but our praise is due to Allah. On that note, though, seeing you mention the suit, the bow tie, how Islam like looks good on you. Shift into the shift into the next question. The chat is going crazy. So how has brotherhood like helped you in your development? Like, has it changed or helped your views of community development? What role has brotherhood played in your process / can it play for others?
Hmm, man, so much, so much. I'm sorry, it's just I could tell these questions are gonna have me really in deep thought later because it's happening right now. That just
If
made
you
me
want to
think.
cry, it's okay.
No, ma'am. that just made me think a lot, because I'm thinking about my blood brother, my only brother that I have, my older brother. Um, I want to answer with him before I speak to the fruit of Islam, because he, just talking about development, me being young, he helped me to kind of he he was the right type of male figure that I needed to keep me away from in straight words, becoming lame and goofy from the influence of this world. Um and just being a crowd pleaser, you know what I mean? I got a lot from my older brother, that allowed me not to be a punk. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan not kinda, absolutely, and still is putting the pin on that. Um, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan took the fear of death out of me. You know what I'm saying? And the fruit of Islam, especially, of course, because these are the brothers I'm around. My brothers here in Virginia, in the 757, we sharpen each other. Just speaking for brotherhood in general, that's the whole purpose. As we say all the time here, iron sharpens iron. If we were to try to make this journey by ourselves, of course, it would be torturous. I don't think we would be successful personally, but even, you know, there's nothing impossible. The black man is God, but um, and the black woman, of course, for those who, you know, may not know, who may catch this on YouTube. But uh yeah, we we can do anything, but this was definitely a journey that was meant to be the way it was, or Master Fard Muhammad wouldn't have designed the nation the way he did, with the sisterhood and the brotherhood, not just for us to love each other once again, but to like I said, be strengtheners for one another, to be reminders for one another. The Holy Quran talks about that often. Um, a reminder profits the believers. So everybody's studying different things. Everybody's growing in different areas. So we're all going to be short somewhere. So you're going to need that somebody that's strong in your weakness. You know what I mean? That's it's the perfect design. That's how our bodies work. It's just the macrocosm of that. So yeah, the brotherhood is everything. I love my brothers here in Norfolk, across the nation, that I've been blessed to meet so many of, from our different events. Look forward to seeing everybody, inshallah, this week at the National Training Conference in Chicago. Um, yeah, man, I love y'all too. All praises due to Allah. Yeah, my brothers, that's everything. Because I've had moments where um I've been in some mental stress, and I've been able to have conversations that help me to refocus. So that's super important. Is and I'll say this lastly, not to drag out the answer, but our brotherhood is much different than just any other friendships that you could have just from, meeting people in just regular life. This is a different mission that we on. Not even just the divine mission, the ultimate, establishment of God's kingdom and the resurrecting of our people, but just this particular subject, the self-development. We're all on a particular, well understood, by the help of Allah, journey of self-development that's not just like, oh, I just want to get my money and make sure my family's straight. Like, it's way bigger than that now. We understand, like the minister said, that we're trying to become reflections of God. And so that puts us all in a different type of mind state that gives us all a different type of um we give each other a different type of help, knowing that that's the destination. uh I hope that makes sense, but it will to those who understand what I'm saying.
It makes all the sense in the world. None of us were made to have to deal with this insane world by ourselves. And one of the greatest gifts that Allah gave us in stylizing our nation as a brotherhood and sisterhood was that He gave us each other. So iron sharpen iron, steel sharpen steel, men sharpen men, women sharpen women, etc. People in the chat again going crazy, and I do mean crazy. But just bearing witness to what you've shared thus far. So I'll jump straight into the next question. The next question, boom. How did you see yourself before you learned that God is a man? And how are you growing to see yourself now?
Mm,
I'll put it in the chat too, so we can just marinate on it.
man. I'm gonna just say for what came to my mind. I don't know if I don't even know if I fully saw myself at all before coming into that knowledge. Cause it's like what was I really seeing? For me to behave the way I would behave at times. I wasn't like the problem type per se. Um I made some dumb mistakes naturally, but I didn't have any guidance. Not certainly not this type of guidance, but I was just making the best moves that with my knowledge and life I thought were the moves I needed to make as far as just becoming independent and whatever. But a citizen in Niggerville, Sister Anissa said, yes, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. I knew I wanted to get out of Niggerville. That's a Nation of Islam insider, by the way. I don't want anybody to think we tripping up here. Just like, I knew this was gonna be enjoyable. But yeah, I was trying to get out of that realm. What was the question again? I'm sorry. I told y'all we gotta get Sister
See,
Anissa
see,
out
we just had to squeeze in the word nigger somewhere
here.
in this call. Shame on those who need the shame. The question was, I repeat, how did you see yourself before you learned that God is a man? And
Oh yeah.
how are you growing to see yourself now? Thank
I just saw myself as a I saw myself as a child of God. I can definitely say that. I saw myself as a child of God, and I wanted to I wanted to become just somebody who could make my parents proud, and somebody who could make righteousness not not I don't even know what the word is for it right now. Unattractive, for lack of a better phrase, because that was just what I noticed growing up. Like, yeah, whack. Sister said in the chat. Because there's a stigma tied to it, but just to make being better and doing better um cool again. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I did always have that desire, but I would say, because I don't know how else I could really answer that question of how I saw myself, just somebody who could, you know, just be a good person. I didn't have any, I guess the contrast maybe, or answering the other question will kind of help answer the previous part of the question. With the knowledge of God being a physical, real, live human being, um, that that puts like life itself in a different perspective, really. When you start to wrap your mind around it, because my mind ain't wrapped around it all the way. None of us probably are 100%. Maybe the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and maybe some others. I'm not gonna act like I know what's in anybody else's head, but really understanding that it takes it puts the ceiling somewhere way way higher as far as what we can really do with this human brain and this human body. It makes you want to study the mind more, the body more, how we can really have an effect on nature, on life, on the future. You know what I mean? It makes you really want to dive deeper into your purpose and how you as an individual really play a role in the grand scheme of things. If it's billions of us here and we're all as one, you know, doing the work, not just doing the work of God, but quite literally our God as a whole. So teaches the most honorable Elijah Muhammad that the black man and woman. He said, every time I look at the black man, I'm looking at God. It's like, to be honest, it's still it's still heavy. It's still heavy. It really is. Because I always remember that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says we're just kindergartners in this stage that we're in right now. So as far as our development, it's like when you think about it, it's you can't think deep, you can't think but so far into what we're really going to be capable of, because we're just being awakened by the grace of Allah. But I'm trying to be woke. So that's that's all I could say. That's the perspective I have now. That's how it's changed my view of myself.
Wow. One thing I heard you say just now that really stood out to me is that how it makes you want to move, what did you say, to work in your purpose. Do you feel that you've come closer to understanding your own purpose in this question mark, or like throughout this process?
Yes, I do. And just not to leave it at a yes, I would just say that, and I used to struggle with that, feeling like I was taking too long to figure out what my purpose was or what my purpose in life was, because I was always trying to attach it to a career or a skill or a talent. But really, what gave me a lot of peace of mind is Allah reminding me and us, like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, that our predetermined goal in life before we were even born is to become one with Him. But that's a very broad goal. It's not just about praying and being a righteous person, and that goes into, like I was saying, figuring out where the gifts and talents that He's given you play into the grand scheme of things. What do you see around you? You know what I mean? What do you help out the most with in the situation you're in right now, in the area that you're in right now? What do you see yourself helping out with in the future based off of how you see the world developing? You know, so then when you are studying self, like we're taught that Allah did, that was the first thing he did after he created himself, was he studied himself. Then you see what your weaknesses and your strengths are, what you're passionate about. And it's a process. I'm still figuring out different areas where I fit into Allah's plans. But that's the most important to me. Just working on myself. I'm a quote Big Sean, if I may. He said, I've been working on myself, and that's the most important work, even if you don't get paid for it. That comforts me a lot because, people always worried about material gain and stuff, and that is important. We're taught not to be uh poor righteous teachers in the sense of not having money. We're only poor in numbers because Satan's world has affected so many of us. But just that, just becoming yourself, your true self, and serving God's cause, that's what I focus on. And that's ultimately going to lead me to everything else he needs me to do. And I know that for a fact because of my teacher. He's the example that that's all I need to do.
Come on now. Y'all heard the conviction, and I know that for a fact because my teacher, right? Like, nah,
Facts.
that just got me hyped. Like on the inside, I was just like, woo, like that would be the part
Praise
where,
be to
like, if
Allah.
this were Rossum, I'd just be tease from the back. We need to put that on the next t-shirt. I know that for a fact because of my teacher. Okay.
Praise be to Allah.
And so we're just gonna ride that wave right along, right? So like questions from our dear brother student minister Ernest Muhammad, right? So like what do you think your generation will do to help the nation moving forward?
Hmm. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan pays such particular attention to the youth and gives such particular energy towards the youth. He has said that even though, people look at the minister in such a big, or should I say they see him in such a great light, which he is very much in that light, the light of God. God has very much put a spotlight on him and is using him as a mouthpiece. But he still reminds us in his humility, and not just in humility, but in truth, that we will do greater things than him. And that he's just the stepping stone, the cornerstone. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if we if we listen, and if we that's a main part of the self-improvement journey. I'm going back to the books again, just looking at some of the titles of them. There's 18 study guides. I got both books sitting here in front of me because I didn't just want to, being that I chose this subject, I wanted to be able to pull from this and not just, just relay strictly from my life, but because this is important to me, because this journey that I'm trying to express of my life leading up to this point in my life, this is what I needed. And this is what we all need. This is what it's all about. The first study guide in here is titled Mixed Feelings and Controversy. How do we handle it? The second one is Building Human Potential. The third one is Overcoming Difficulty. The fourth one is The Struggle for Balance. I wanted to focus really on overcoming difficulty and mixed feelings and controversy, because a big problem that we have right now as far as youth, from what I can say humbly, from what I'm seeing, is that we don't want to listen. We don't want to take anything from anybody in authority. we have ego, and we have a hell of a lot of anger, a lot of anger, and we don't know how to channel it properly. But our enemies know how to channel it to have us using our anger on each other and on ourselves, or looking for a what's the word? Not a pacifier. I'm talking about drugs.
A
A cope
tranquil.
a coping mechanism, I'll say for now. A
Oh, a
something to numb
sedative.
it. Yeah, that too. All of that. Something to numb the pain, something to bring down your emotions, you know what I mean? Vices too, all of that. And we have to be able to just heed wisdom and guidance from men and women who have the wisdom and guidance that Allah has placed among us. That's why I wanted to talk about my brother first when you asked me about brotherhood, because he may not have been the best example, but I was in my right mind enough to even be able to take the wrong examples I had around me and at least be like, okay, that's what not to do. So, but he was a very good example as well. I'm talking about everybody now when I say that, but um that's just how I wanted to speak to that question, because what was it particularly again? What do you
Um,
think your generation will do to help the nation move forward?
yes, sir.
Everything. Like every everything. The older generation above us is to guide us, but we are the ones working all the technology and, able-bodied to do this and that, but we just have to heed the guidance and not play ourselves. But we will help in every way needed. That's the simple way I could really answer that. That's the only way I know how to answer that. But I just wanted to stress that because that involves dealing with self. That's the only thing standing in our way from doing everything that we have to do. And for the nation, I would say not even just talking about the Nation of Islam. For those who don't know anything about the Nation of Islam, not interested in the Nation of Islam, but may take a look at this playback or maybe watching this live right now, it's not even just about the Nation of Islam, but well, it is, but I'm gonna explain it this way because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad calls us the lost found Nation of Islam in North America as a people, because that's who we are. Nation, I'm not gonna make it too long, but I would suggest looking up the etymology definition of the word nation, because it's not just a country with a flag. It can be a race of people. Your nationality, that's a nation. So Black people, we are the nation of, meaning belonging to, Islam, which means submission to the will of God. That's our nature, because we are the children of God. That can be proven in no limit of time. But that's what that means, of what this generation can do for our nation as a people. The youth, it is our role, and it's plain as day if you look around enough, that it is our role right now to get our people the complete freedom that we have within arm's reach with the help of Allah. But we got to deal with self.
There's so many layers in that that are worth unpacking. Like there's so much that goes in that. One, like, thank you, Brother Javon, for putting the etymology in the chat and pointing out that nation is not just limited to it's not just limited to particular landmass or race per se, but that when we're referring to the lost found like Black men and women, like that we are indeed referring to the nation of Islam. So we can even point to indigenous nations in the United States that have had their lands completely stolen, but they still are recognized as a nation. There's a shared culture, shared belief, shared experience. There's a lot that goes into that. So, oh my God, there's so much in that. And then in regards to just like that element of what the youth can do, you mentioned that as part of like the habits of like being in the student ministry, like stay ready so you don't got to get ready, have the citations on deck. So we have a question from our brother Justin.
Can we pause real quick?
Oh, yes, sir.
I just wanted to say before we get too deep in the interview, because I just remembered, I don't mean to like jump back and forth with this, but one last thing that I meant to mention about Brother Jabril in the beginning, when we studied his interview, excuse me.
There we go.
So where did I leave off?
You left off
To be able to,
and Self first was saying, how dare you not come to therapy night? And then you were like, this is therapy and ...
Yes, man, praise be to Allah. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because that was interesting that he said that when, you know, that was going to be a subject, obviously, that was going to be talked about that day anyway. So just a reminder of the importance of our Friday night studies, even for those who aren't registered, because you could come anyway to your local mosque or to the online national study via Zoom. That's at study.noi.org. But I just wanted to share that, the fact that that happened to be tied in that day.
I mean, that's actually perfect because in this while you're very much in tune, because that question about the Friday night study group and the importance of it was literally like in the stack of questions. So you literally, boom, answered that. So our praise is due to Allah.
Praise be to Allah.
We're moving into the next question. One, if you're enjoying yourself so far, like let us know in the chat. This personally, there's just so much more to unpack here. Like I find this is making me want to go and study more. And if you haven't heard the lecture that Brother Demetrius just referenced from my dear brother Jabril, Self First, definitely recommend finding it on YouTube. Brother Jabril, he's such an amazing scholar. He just again makes me want to study more, which is how I feel right now in this moment. So boom, going to the next question. We want to get through as many as we can. It's definitely Sister Greta. Very glad that we're here. So next question from my dear brother Justin. What have you learned being in the student ministry class that has helped you in your self-development?
Humility was the first thing that came to mind. And also, and I have to say why I say that, because you want to be cautious not to try to turn it into you being a superstar thing. You know what I mean? Oh, here comes the minister. Here comes our speaker for today, even if you're not the student minister over the mosque or whatever. But when you have eyes on you, some people don't like that. Some people get real nervous, and some people, like myself, who may not get as nervous as others, which I do get nervous now more, and I'm gonna explain that in a second. But you can take that and let ego come into that and think that you have a voice of authority, or think that the minister talks about that your spirit can poison the message. You could turn the message into something to where you just making points that you want to make to get something off your chest. and it's not even really related to the subject or the teaching as it should be, or feeling like you could be not doing that and you speaking the truth and you saying the right things, but then you could start to feel like that means your word is law. You know what I mean? Just because you're getting a better knowledge of the truth. These are just things that I've noticed from really just life in general, even before the ministry. Like people in positions where you have to listen to them. That's interesting, even just saying that, where you have to listen to them. Because like you could have a boss at your job, but you have to listen to them literally, but so much. But when you're giving a lecture, someone is literally listening to you for an hour, 2 hours straight. And so, yeah, you have to be careful with that. You have to be humble in your delivery of the message. And also, I say that it gives me more of a understanding of how important it is how we talk to one another and how precious our minds are. And that's why I say that I get more nervous now than I used to, because I never had a problem with public speaking. But now, because I understand the severity of delivering this type of message to the people more, like even before this call, I was more nervous than I would have been doing a call like this before with y'all on the master call. But I was more nervous today just because of what I wanted to convey with this, because I've been thinking about it even longer now that we had to postpone it. So it's like I was pregnant with this. But I was talking to Brother Nori one time on the phone, literally one time. I haven't because I don't, yeah, I'm not gonna harass Brother Nori, but I talked to him one time and he told me that he still gets nervous because of that exact reason I just told you, because he's talking to God's people. And that made me reconsider how I come to the people. Because he said in words that if you're not nervous, then you're not taking it seriously. And I was like, man. So yeah, I hope I answered the question because I forgot it again.
I think you absolutely answered the question. The question was centered around how your experience in the student ministry, like the things that you've learned, how that has helped you in your own self-development. I think you more than answered that question. And yeah, that the element of if you're not nervous, you're not taking it seriously, like for sure. I think that's one of the most nerve-wracking things. I'll speak for myself. I find that to be one of the most nerve-wracking things, like ever, to speak to God's people. Like as you said, that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, every time you look at a Black man or a woman, you're looking at God. So to address us is, yeah, it is an act of bravery, and it should be respected as such. And right. Pregnant with the thought, pregnant mentally and spiritually. And of course, naturally, not physically.
Yeah,
But okay, so we move on to our
goodness.
next question. Right. Some people might have needed the clarifier. But we'll move on to the next question. Okay, what role can How to Eat to Live play in our journey for self-improvement, and what role has played in your process? You touched on this for a moment earlier, but if there's anything else you want to add to that?
Did I? I touched on how to eat to live?
You touched on wanting to eat better.
I did, yeah. Um, whoever asked that question, shout out to you. I love y'all because y'all know me. But how it let me go to the books again. But while I'm looking for what I'm looking for in the book, Mustafar Muhammad, and I'm rephrasing this explanation from our dear sister Callie, who did an interview with us a while back. Sister Callie Muhammad, she was talking about how Mustafar Muhammad brought the people the teaching of how to eat to live because they were not able to digest what he had to give them of the teachings in the state that they were in Detroit. You know, drinking a lot and of course eating whatever junk they was eating, and even just living the way they were living the way a lot of us are still living. It produces a different type of mind that, like I kind of talked on earlier, isn't really interested in righteousness and thinks that, you know, that's lame or not really, you know, like that's just something some people do, is go around people who trying to become one with God and serve God. And, you know, people think that some people talk about God too much, like that type of thinking. Your life and the way you live, it affects not only how you receive thoughts, but what type of thoughts you even want to receive, what you want to consume. So naturally, what we quite literally consume physically has an effect like that on our mind. And the Minister Farrakhan, breaks that down more in various lectures. As far as I wish I could think of the one that I'm thinking of right now, where he just talked about mm, mm-mm. I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue too. No, not the pale horse, brother. But anyway, I mean, without, since I can't cite it, I mean, he's not the only one that has said this. It's just it's biology, or whatever, our body. But when you eat, the food goes into your blood and breaks down, and that blood flows to your brain. You know what I mean? But we just, most of us, I would say, or if not most of us, it may be safe to say the average person, we just think about everything in the belly area and not thinking about our food quite literally going to our brain, which actually requires a lot of the nutrition that we take in our brain. But we just think, you know, it just goes in your stomach, then into your intestines, and your body just gets what it gets, or whatever we think in our head. But our food has a lot to do with our thoughts. So, and particularly this point in time we're living in, where our enemies are putting chemicals we can't even pronounce, don't know nothing about, that they know very much about, that are affecting our mood, you know, the way we interact with each other. Dr. Wesley broke that down seriously last year when he was at Mosque Mariam. I forget the title of the lecture that he did, but talking about just the water that we shower in, that we drink, the lead poisoning that they have in certain areas that we stay in, you know, the lead pipes that need to be changed and stuff. Um, Islam comes after all else fails. Thank you, brother. That's the name of the lecture. The weed, that's not food, but we consume it. The marijuana, um, it's a lot that we're being attacked with right now, that we're taking in, that they make it seem like it's okay, obviously, the fast food, but these things affect our morale, our desire to want to build something for ourselves, our desire to break our vices, it makes us lazy, it makes us irritable. I can't name any of them off the top of my head, but I've studied Dr. Wesley and looked over other things from under other individuals that have been verified and proven. Like, these people are very much poisoning us in a lot of different ways, through the food particularly, and our water. The what's it called, in the toothpaste and in the tap water, that calcifies our pineal gland.
Fluoride?
Fluoride. Yes. Like, I didn't even, a lot of us are getting hip to that now, but a lot of us didn't like understand what the pineal gland does. It's yeah, so that's something we have to, of course, y'all know I could talk about how to eat to live for a minute, but because I'm just dealing with the poisoning aspect of it, not even the benefits of eating the way he taught us to eat. But we have to love ourselves enough to not stand for that once we even get a general idea of what they're doing to us. They violate it in a major way, and we just going along with it. It'll change your life the more you start to just drink some water and stop putting Kool-Aid in it all the time, or them weird little powders and juices that the people squeeze in it to give it some flavor. Grow up and drink the water. Like, and y'all see I was nice enough to put my water in a cup for this interview, because I realized that the other times I be having like I got one near me somewhere, I'll be having the big Fiji bottles, and I'm like, I gotta stop drinking that during the interviews because it's real big and it's distracting. But yeah, that's all I'll say to that question.
This
She said a 40.
oh my, no, this interview
Yeah.
might be the most quotable one out of the whole series thus far. He said, grow up and drink the water. That's another t-shirt. It's just like the well of Zamzam that just kept giving, not us putting salad in our water. What? I don't know what's going on in this comment section. Okay, but I think we have, all right, we're gonna try and squeeze as many questions as we have time for left. We're gonna keep going till 7:30. I'm really crying laughing, like not y'all saying brother was drinking out of a 40 bottle. And not you coming for Kool-Aid. We not supposed to drink Kool-Aid, family. Like, just in case you didn't know, okay? But all right, so here's the next question. I'm gonna try and get through as many as we can. Okay, sir, knowing that the War of Armageddon has begun, what role does self-improvement play in the war and our survival once the war is over?
What does our role in self-improvement play for our survival, you said?
Play in the war and our survival once the war is over. So it's a 2-part question. I think they meant it as a 2-part question.
Yeah, because I was like, in the war and our survival once the war is over.
So
well,
it sounds like the war currently and then thereafter, or hereafter.
Yeah, I'm gonna speak to both. The minister said that the War of Armageddon starts with the messenger of God teaching people the truth, and you either fall on one side or the other. Paraphrasing a little bit, but near correct. So, us really wanting to apply what we have in these study guides and ultimately listening to and strengthening so that you can have better ears for it, the voice of God that we already have in us. He just had to reiterate and emphasize some things through his messengers and his prophets and through these divine men that he has placed among us in the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the honorable minister Louis Farrakhan. But to do right and submit to that voice of righteousness, his essence that's within us, is all we need to do. It's not necessarily about, because people tie religion so much to rules and restrictions. That's a part of life too. And the minister talks about that in another beautiful book that I feel like I look at that as one of these books, really. It's called The Restrictive Law of Islam is Our Success. And the minister talks about an example of a roller coaster, how the more, this was in a lecture actually, but how the more fast and steep the hills are on a roller coaster, the more restrictions you have on you. You might have just a bar going over you on one roller coaster, and on another one you got a bar and a seat belt and all type of stuff to hold you in. It's so you go through the ride smoothly. So it's not just about don't do this. Half of the stuff we wouldn't be doing if we were in our right minds in the first place and didn't have the satanic influence that we have of this world. So I was just prefacing it with that to say that a lot of the truth that we're receiving, which again is what the war of Armageddon is, it's a war of wickedness and righteousness and a war of truth and falsehood. We have to, well, let me speak more to the question. I don't want to stray off. But our self-development plays the role in us being able to even be permitted into the world that Allah is making to last after the war of Armageddon is over. So that's just to answer the second part of the question first. But to the first part, I'm looking for another statement from the minister. That's why y'all see these pages flipping. Here it is. He said, talking about that voice inside of us that I was mentioning, he said, every time we act, matter of fact, was there another sentence before this page? I think there was. I'm gonna read this because this plays into it. This is the opening letter introducing the study guides. He said, each study guide is designed on the guidance of Allah to produce self-examination, self-analysis, self-correction, and to quicken in each of us the self-accusing spirit. For it is only when we are awakened morally that we have to face the self-accusing spirit that leads to our resurrection. Resurrection is the process that begins with the self-accusing spirit and does not end until we become one in perfect harmony or peace with Allah and his creation. And then he says later on in the letter, every time we act to still the voice of correction coming from within ourselves, we are in fact murdering the messenger of Allah. The result is spiritual blindness leading to spiritual death, leading ultimately to an untimely physical death. So that's quite literally our survival. But we're not going to listen to the messenger of Allah who's trying to tell us the truth if we won't even listen to the voice within ourselves. He equated that to the messenger of Allah. So that's how self-development and going through each of these, I'm gonna just read some more of them, of the actual books. Of the actual study guide titles, just to drive the point home. Study guide number 11. I'm gonna go back to the first book actually, but I'm gonna read some of these. Study guide number 11. Allah is the true center of everything. Study guide number 4. 4 great impediments to self-development, which I'm gonna read inshallah before this interview is over because I wanted to touch on that. Study guide number 14, respect for authority. Number 15, the characteristic of humility. Number 17, big one, hypocrisy and conspiracy. Number 18, one of the biggest ones, in my opinion, rising above emotion into the thinking of God. Our emotions will absolutely get us killed during this war. 100% if we don't strive to master that. Rising above emotion into the thinking of God, doing what needs to be done for the sake of righteousness and not, living selfishly and always questioning the wise man, like that story of Moses and the wise man. It's important, very important. I'll leave that one at that.
Wow. To those of us who may not be familiar with the story of Moses and the wise man, I don't think it's found in the Bible, but it's found in the Holy Quran. Definitely check it out is all I'm going to say with that. And that
should be in the Bible.
Hmm?
It should be in the Bible too, isn't it?
I don't know. Let's get a
I
citation.
don't know either, to be honest. Because
Yeah,
I don't read the Bible enough. I read the Quran more, and I got to stop doing that. But
we gotta, balance. But
yeah,
I feel 90% certain that it's not explicitly named in the Bible, the story of Moses and the wise man. But that's only 90%. Hence the need for a citation.
yes,
So
man.
then I'm gonna bring us to our penultimate question. Right. I'm seeing people in the chat bearing witness. So our penultimate question, and thank you, Brother Demetrius, for your open-heartedness as we're going through this and as you're, offering your own introspection as we're discussing, matters that are all also personal to ourselves. I encourage everyone to, reflect on how what's being said, like how we can apply these things to our own lives. Rising above emotion, staying away from the Kool-Aid, among other great pieces of advice that we've gotten so far. So for our penultimate question,
I'm sorry, sister. What is that?
Penultimate.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
means second to last. Ultimate being like the last. Penultimate as in second to last.
I'm striving to improve my vocabulary. That's part of self-improvement as well. So thank you for that.
All praise is due to Allah. Thank you for asking, sir. Shout out to English lesson C1.
Praise be to Allah.
We should let that be our word of the day.
Already.
Not the C1 advanced words. But right. So second, so that means boom, we got this question, we got one more after that. So we're coming to a close. But so here's the question. What has been the most defining moment for you as a Muslim under the teachings and why?
The most defining. As a Muslim under the teachings. What I'm doing right now is just looking at the word defining to help me to answer that question, because I wanna answer it correctly.
That's pretty meta,
The
like
edit,
defining the word defining.
yeah. That's one thing that being in the classroom of God has really instilled in me as well, is knowing what the heck I'm talking about and knowing what the words I'm using mean. Vocabulary is very key, like Sister Jadea just reminded us. So it says, this is the etymology of it, to specify, to fix, or establish authoritatively, state the significance of, explain what is meant by, describe in detail, to finish, conclude, come to an end, bring to an end, define, determine with precision. My most defining moment. I mean, well, I guess my most defining moment would be as far as in this part of my journey would be something that helped to define me. And looking at that definition, I could really mm, it's kind of hard. It's either between that moment I referenced before with the minister saying what he said to me, or the day that I actually, oh man, graduation was, yeah, that was
Talk about
gradu.
it.
No, graduation was different. Graduation was different. I don't even want to, man. I will, and I'm actually gonna go with that. Would be this at this point in my journey. It was definitely our graduation that we just had at Savior's Day, this year, because that was just such a beautiful moment. First off, shout out to Sister Ambassador, our dear sister, who we, and by we I mean me, affectionately call Sister Ambassador, but Sister Jadea, because she was part of her and my sister Mariam and Sister Jenna and my brother Rome from Cali. Y'all were all part of the of course separate because he was with the FOI, he was with the Vanguard, but part of the flag carrying. So that was just significant to me. I was like, oh snap, all my brothers and sisters. Like but yeah, I was sitting front row at the graduation. So because they had the brothers who had their FOI uniforms going in front first, and then of course I'm not the tallest, so I'm front row because we lined up in order of height. And I'm sitting directly across from Brother Nuri as far as the lineup that they had on stage. I'm looking at all of them, obviously. Student Supreme Captain Mustafa, Brother Nuri, Brother Demetrius, um, Brother Dr. Wesley. It was just I'm just looking at their faces. I could think of all their faces right now. I'm just looking at their faces, looking at us with just joy and pride, but also like straight faces because they was like serious about this moment and what this means. This was probably, I don't know for a fact, but I think somebody might have said this or not, but I know it definitely had to have been one of the biggest graduations in the Nation of Islam because of the fact that we were coming out of a pandemic where we had people coming into the nation while we weren't able to meet physically in person for Savior's Day. Brother Javon said 600 plus people, and that's for sure that was in that room. Um, but I would say that was one of the most defining for me because the energy was just amazing, and being able to see that mass of new fruit. And when I say fruit, I'm not even just talking about the FOI, even though we're the fruit of Islam, the MGT as well, because we're all fruits in from the most honorable Elijah Muhammad's garden, from Master Fard Muhammad's garden. So it was just a beautiful thing to see. And I'm going to just say it. I don't want to insinuate anything or just like, it was just significant for me. The fact that I was literally, like I said, as far as the brothers I'm sitting with and the brothers that we lined up with on stage, I'm like sitting directly across from Brother Nuri, who was also influential in my coming into the nation because he's funny. Apparently, I'm funny. I'm not going to put that on myself. No, I'm going to put that on myself. But see, y'all shouldn't have got Sister Jade to do this interview. But But I like Brother Nuri. I resonate with his personality. He's also not the tallest brother, but he has a powerful, a very powerful presence in his voice when he teaches, and just in the work that he does. And he's been a excellent end goal example, even though he's still living his life. His story is not done, but he's made himself a very beautiful example of being a successful man and a successful husband, striving to follow the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and not putting this world and this world's goals first. So that particularly just spoke to me. The fact that I ended up in that position after finally getting to graduate, wading through the pandemic. So it was a lot leading up to that, and yeah, that was heavy. And I'm glad actually that I had to wait to graduate, that we all had to wait to graduate like that, because it made it more worthwhile. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like I earned it more because I had more time with self-development and with ridding myself of the vices and the things that I'm sure a lot of us have carried into this new, well, I won't say this new way of life, but still carried into our tenure in the nation, because we don't just register and then just become perfect. You know what I'm saying? I'm still battling with things. It's still an ever-going process to silence the whisperings of Satan from within you when you live in Satan's world. So, but I felt like I was more worthy to be in that audience because of my extended time to be able to feed from the teachings and to work on that self-correction. So yeah, I did. Felt like I actually graduated. Yeah. But of course they reminded us that it's not, there is no graduation in this. We're still in kindergarten.
It's truly a lifelong process. And it was literally so beautiful to see. If you're tuning in and you haven't gotten to see a graduation of the Nation of Islam yet, yeah, you're missing out. And I hope for your sake that you'll get to see it someday, because it is literally one of the most beautiful just sights that you'll ever get to see. Just so much love in the space. And to see y'all finally get to have a culmination and seeing people who came through a whole pandemic and survived and made it through and was still holding on to their Islam is really so beautiful. Words, it's ineffably beautiful, as in words literally cannot describe. So thank you for taking us into your experience in that moment. Yeah, just thank you for that.
Praise be to Allah.
I'm seeing the chat. So we've come to our ultimate question, the last question, for you, brother. So when you first heard and came into the knowledge that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was physically alive, what did you think? How did you feel? And in your current journey, how do you see the reality and identity of Master Fadil Muhammad and the minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
So the first part of the question, I would say relating to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad still being physically alive. How did I feel? I felt very not surprised in the sense that like that wouldn't make sense, as far as like the minister has said, what he taught the minister wouldn't add up if he was dead. So it's like he let him know in advance without letting him know that it wasn't his time to die. But I mean, surprised in the sense that just, of course, his age, that he would be in his hundred somethings and that he would be on the wheel. That's something to take in. at the time that I learned that, or that I first heard that, which I don't even remember when I very first heard that. I'm gonna have to think about that now. But when I did first hear that, I just know that was how I felt. Not so much in disbelief of it, but just like, wow, okay. And then just rationalizing it with myself. But I didn't have disbelief in that though, because even just me, and this is going to kind of segue into the part about Master Far Muhammad, even just me knowing or coming into the knowledge of, and at least having a belief that Allah has come to us in the person of Master Far Muhammad, that was something that I wasn't I wasn't in disbelief about either, because of my journey in life leading up to my coming into the nation. And then, like I said, just moments, all of which I can't really call to mind, where he was giving me hints and signs like, yeah, come over here, you know, directing me to where I am. That let me know that I wasn't just in a place where, it was just too good to be true. And that, these are some good people, they doing good things, but no, God isn't really over this. Like, no, that I knew God was really involved in this and that there was truth in this. And it was just a matter of, which it still is a matter of, me me further proving that through living this life, proving that for myself, the reality of Allah and the person of Master Fard Muhammad. I feel like that's I feel like that's a lifelong work as well. Well, maybe not lifelong. If he actually were to step into my room right now, I think that would be it for that. but um but yeah, just seeing him work in my life, that's going to continue to be a part of the journey. So the reality of Allah and the person of Master Fard Muhammad is something that I have to make sure that I don't ever feel like, okay, he's real. Let me not think about that. Let me not further try to build on that anymore. I can't I can't do that. That's not even a part of the process. That's not a part of becoming one with Allah. Now that I know the reality of Allah, I have to build a relationship with him. So I'm not going to say um that I don't still want, and I'm trying to phrase this right, because this is why I was saying earlier I was trying to pick my words properly when I was describing how I felt before the minister spoke to me on that Savior's Day call, because I wouldn't have even joined the Nation of Islam had I had disbelief in such a critical foundational point like that. Point number 12 of what the Muslims believe of Master Fard Muhammad. I mean, excuse me, of Allah coming to us in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. But we should always, and I would like to speak for all of us when I say that, we should always strive to continue to strengthen our conviction in the God that came for us, because naturally we would want to see him, but he has a process. And that's why I say that the story of Moses and the wise man is so important, because brother Sultan said something that really hit me on that interview we just had last week with him. He said it's okay to have doubt. and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he said this. So he said everybody has doubt, but just keep living. Essentially, is what he said. Excuse me. Just keep living and staying in the process and feeding your faith. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to say that for anybody in particular who may feel that way. If you ever have a feeling of doubt or a desire to get something more in your life that strengthens your faith in the God, that's not what's it called? It's not hypocrisy, it's not disbelief. Like, oh, I don't believe in it. Like, no, like study more, apply the teachings more, and most importantly, at least I'm gonna say most importantly, pray more so that you can see the results. Speak his name directly when you pray and put his messenger's name who introduced you to him in the prayer and the man who represents his messenger to you, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Louis Farrakhan. So lastly, speaking on our dear messenger Messiah last, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the reality of him, I mean, that one, I think that's what I just talked about this whole interview. It wouldn't be no, no study guides, no master calls, no Brother Jabril's, if the Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't deliver what we standing on. I haven't had any experiences, some of the beautiful, profound experiences that some of the believers have been able to share with the other believers of, actually getting to see him, and not even literally like from being alive when he was still amongst us, but seeing him in visions and, beautiful things like that. But looking at it, that's what brought me into the nation, looking at the fruit of his work. And that's why I'm like, you can't say, I'm gonna just end off on this because I just feel like it needs to be said. And this is also tying into the question. You can't say that you don't agree with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan or think that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is straying from the teachings or, anything of that nature when he's still keeping the nation afloat and he's still successful in bringing more brothers and sisters like myself into this. It wouldn't agree. It wouldn't agree. You can't build something new on the foundation that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad laid, which is pure truth. And it to have this type of beautiful effect on the people is one thing to get followers, but to be successful with your followers and still grow. You know what I'm saying? Your companion does not err. Come on, Big Nisa. Like, and I can't say that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did a good work and was just another great black leader, you know what I'm saying, and then deny the God that he keeps saying is the reason that he even has what he taught. So you gotta take it from the top and go down to the root. You can't take some of it and be like, it doesn't work like that. You can't deny the rest. I have to look at, and like the minister would say, I have to reason with what he is telling me of this man that came to him in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. I have to reason with the reality of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad imparted on the minister when he had his vision-like experience and told him that he was still alive. And he told that to the government and told them about plans that, they looking at him like, how did you know that? I have to reason with that. I can't just say, oh, now y'all crazy. What do I know? What did I know before I got here? Not a damn thing. So I'll leave it at that. I knew a little bit. I knew a speck. You know, now my speck is growing into a crumb. You know what I'm saying? So praise be to Allah.
Praise is due to Allah as he takes a sip of water from a cup this time. All praise is due to Allah. No, for real. Just that element of not aborting the process and knowing that we know so little and having faith in, as the Bible says. So as you know a man, so as you know a tree by the fruit it bears, so you know a man by his works. And so thank you, Brother Demetrius, for so much introspection and giving us so much to think on and reflect on from this conversation as we discuss self-improvement. I will ask if there's any last words, but before that, we do have a treat. We have a video that we want to share as we close. So I want to just thank everyone for staying with us. I know we're going over time just a little bit, but stick with us. We got some more power to pack into this day. I just want to say thank you again, Brother Demetrius. And just as a quick little commercial break, before we end, and we're not just ending all together yet. Please feel free.
Skin, lest the skin
Here's
break
the
and
treat.
the
Here's the
wine
treat.
spill.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sister Jade. I was just a
That will make you a perfected vessel.
Sorry. Just a little technical difficulty. Love seeing Sister Minister Dr. Ava as well. Just want to say, if y'all feeling like passing the receptacle, please feel free to send our brother a cash app at Ep.5. Feel free to just put that there. Just wanted to name that. I'm going back off mute and I'm going off camera so we can continue with our program. Thank you.
So I wanted to play this real quick because it is a part of that self-improvement. Hope I'm not, I'm on my phone and my computer, so I hope I'm not echoing. It is a part of that self-improvement. It's actually closing words from a Friday self-improvement class from our beautiful Sister Ava. And Brother Demetrius said something with one of the questions that I believe his student minister asked him. And this came to mind, and I think it's something beautiful to close out with.
The hold of his love and his mercy. Jesus said, you cannot put new wine in an old wineskin, lest the skin break and the wine spill out. You cannot put the wisdom that God wants to put in you until you undergo something that will make you a perfected vessel for his glory. Sister Janice said tonight, we have to go now past theory into application. We're beyond teaching and talking and studying. Now we have to do as our teacher is doing and live this life. And when we really try, and I'm talking to me, when we really try to practice Islam as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it will bring about its own trials that are uniquely designed for us because each of us has our own divine purpose. You have a divine purpose. I have a divine purpose individually. And one of the worst acts of rebellion we can commit is to deny our own divinity. Look at what the minister said. He said he rebelled against his teacher. He obeyed him almost perfectly except for one time or in one situation. Whenever the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him who he was, he pushed back and denied it. And some of us came away from the lecture and said, oh no, the minister didn't rebel. He was just being humble. He did rebel. How do I know he rebelled? Because he said so. He said so. This is our leader. This is our teacher. This is our guide. He is saying no matter what the intent, no matter how humble it is, when God says something to us and tells us to do something and we don't do it, that's rebellion. But also when he tells us who we are, when we reject that, that's rebellion. So God himself has come and said, you black man, you black woman, the descendants of a people picking cotton, picking tobacco, building America from nothing to become the most powerful nation in the world, suffering rape and murder and every type of indignity, to atone for a rebellion 66 trillion years ago. Because of them, he is saying to us, I want you back. I'm here to come and get you myself. And so this is the last barrier between us and separation. This is what's holding up separation, is our rejection of our divinity. We're wallowing in the integration with the white man, trying to make an oasis here, as many of our people are doing. Like Lot's wife, we keep looking back at what white people have and wanting to go after it.
All praises due to Allah. I wanted to share that because Brother Demetrius said that he mentioned greater things, where Jesus said, greater things will you do than I have done. And I thought that was so key to share that, that is what's holding up separation, is that we don't necessarily think that we can do the greater things. So all praises to Allah. Great interview, beloved. I'm going back on mute. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Is Sister Ambassador still here? I think she might be having a technical issue.
But, yes, sir. She stepped away. But yeah, we were going to close out with the Quran and prayer. Do you have any last words that you want to say, Black man?
Very quickly, and I'm glad that, first off, I'm not even gonna say nothing about the Cash App. If y'all want to bless me with something, I appreciate it. But sister needs to know I'm gonna fight her afterwards for that. But I'm glad that she played Sister Dr. Ava, because it wasn't Sister Anissa. I apologize, Big Nisa. I'm glad that she played that, because one, that was a very beautiful point to end off on, and that's actually what I was going to say as well, was that and she kind of calmed me down, because I was going to say something else, because I got fired up about Sister Jadea talking about the fruits that fall from the tree. And I'm gonna still say this, but just much more calm now and brief, that people, whoever may be watching this, and even maybe some of us in the nation, need to not take the students and deny the teacher. Like I was saying, whether it be the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, whether it be Brother Malcolm X, whether it be Brother Dr. Khalid Muhammad, stop taking certain fruit from the tree and then denying the tree is the tree that bore them. It don't work like that. You have to give respect and study the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I'm gonna just say that. But I was just gonna end off by basically saying what my dear beloved student minister Ava Muhammad, Minister Ava Muhammad said. That I hope that we take something from what we discussed in this interview and put it into practical application, because a lot of times we can be really well fed by the word, and even take something that from the interview or from whatever it is that we taken from when we come together and talk about the teachings or God in general, but then let it fizzle out and not actually write something down or say, okay, I'm gonna work on this right now, and then I'm gonna put this in plan, and I'm gonna put this plan in action tomorrow. So just for us to do something, anything that we feel like we need to do that was spoke about, that touched you specifically, put it into action like immediately after this call. And let's not just keep, wasting each other's time, just doing a lot of listening, a lot of talking and no walking. That's all I wanted to say. Oh, and of course, leaving you all as I came before you with the greeting words of peace of paradise of Assalamu alaikum. I love you all. This was very enjoyable.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam, brother. Yes, sir, brothers and sisters. So we are in the Holy Quran. We are on chapter 7.
Brother Jeremy, real quick, just two announcements. For those who don't know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did speak today at the funeral service of Renault Robinson, who is the founder of Afro-American Patrolman League. If you want the replay, you can go to Fontaine Muhammad on Facebook, and the replay is there. The minister starts talking at about, I believe, either the 28 or 30-minute mark. And he didn't speak long, but he did speak today. And then for those who will be in Chicago this weekend for national training, this Sunday is the janazah for our brother, the angel Jabril. And I just want to read this from this week's final call. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. Assalamu alaikum. Dear believers, the janazah service for Minister Jabril Muhammad, may Allah be pleased, will be on Sunday, July 30th, 2023 at 11 a.m. Central Time at Mosque Mariam. The service will be streamed online at NOI.org. A viewing will take place at Leak and Sons Funeral Home, 7838 South Cottage Grove Avenue, Chicago, Illinois 60619. Please check NOI.org for the date and time. And that's it.
Yes, sir.
All praises due to Allah.
Praises due to Allah. So again, we are on chapter 76, the man, section 2. Oops, sorry. Another generation will be raised up. If someone is there, it can let me know and I'll begin reading.
You said 76?
Yes, 76, section 2.
I am there.
All praise is due to in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, Merciful. Surely we have revealed the Quran to thee in portions. So wait patiently for the judgment of thy Lord, and obey not a sinner or an ungrateful one among them, and glorify the name of thy Lord morning and evening, and during part of the night adore him and glorify him throughout a long night. Surely these love the transitory life and neglect a grievous day before them. We created them and made firm their make, and when we will, we can bring in their place the like of them by chance. Surely this is a reminder. So whoever will, let him take a way to his Lord, and you will not unless Allah pleases. Surely Allah is ever knowing, wise. He admits whom he pleases to his mercy, and the wrongdoers he has prepared for them a painful chastisement. All praise is due to Allah. And again, that is chapter 76, the man, section 2.
Stop playing, man. Section 2, another generation raised up. I don't know if y'all was listening. You could call that a coincidence if you want. That was Master Fard Muhammad.
All
praise be to Allah. Who's closing out in prayer?
Myself. Praise be to Allah. We'll go ahead and close out, family. Attention prayer. A'udhu billahi min shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the world, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, Master of the Day of Requital. Thee do we serve, and thee do we beseech for help. Guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not the path of those upon whom wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray after hearing thy teaching. Ameen.
Ameen.
And
Assalamu alaikum, family.
wa alaikum salam, sir.
Brother, beautiful interview.